Good evening. Welcome to Third Friday Salon at home. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. All your wonderful faces and on this blustery night. I'll start with a song and then we'll proceed. I was riding in my car, screaming at the night, screaming at the dark, screaming at fright. I wasn't doing nothing, just driving about, screaming at the dark, letting it out. That's all I was doing, just letting it out. Well, along comes a motorcycle, very much to my surprise. I said, "Officer, was I speeding?" I couldn't see his eyes. He said, "No, you weren't speeding." And he felt where his gun was hung. He said, "Lady, you were screaming at the top of your lung, and you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming in your car in a 20-mile zone, you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming." I said, "I'll roll up all my windows, don't want to disturb the peace. I'm just a creature who's looking for a little release." I said, "What's so wrong with screaming? Don't you do it at your games, when a quarterback breaks an elbow, when the boxer beats and maims? But you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming in your car in a 20-mile zone, you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming." I said, "Animals roar when they feel like." I said, "Why can't we do that too? Instead of screaming bonsai baby in a war, in a human zoo." He said, "I've got to take you in now. Follow me right behind, and let's have no more screaming like you're out of your mind." So he climbed aboard his cycle, and his red-eyed headlight beamed, and his motor started spinning, and his siren screamed. He was doing it alone, he was doing it alone, he was screaming on his bike in the 20-mile zone. He was doing it alone, he was doing it alone, he was screaming. I was doing it alone, I was doing it alone, I was screaming in my car in a 20-mile zone. I was doing it alone, I was doing it alone, I was screaming. We were doing it together, we were doing it together, we were screaming in the dark in the 20-mile zone, and we were doing it together, we were doing it together, we were doing it together alone in a 20-mile zone.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So now let's welcome Peggy. Peggy Dobreer.
You always call on me first.
Oh.
Told me you couldn't call on me first, Peggy, so it's my fault. Sorry about that.
Well, in that case, if I get to open for Steve McCormick, that's pretty cool. You know, I just heard that we lost Thich Nhat Hanh, and you know,
No.
deeply meaningful mentor in my life. There is nothing more powerful to me than walking with people dressed in white in silence in honor of peace. And I want to read a little poem. You know, he was so kind to blurb a book that I helped usher into the world on the practice of nonviolence. It's old hat now, but he's a beautiful, oh my gosh, I can hardly breathe to think of him, because just so much riches in such simplicity. This is called Tay. Sometimes I confuse my work with yours. I think I have done something noteworthy or wonderful, but truly I have only seen your radiance. A falling star simply measures a crevice of sky. Tonight, I will gladly suffer the long insomnia of the spirit. Moonlight ignites, plum to plum in the orchard. what a great loss. But, you know, I love what Brendan Constantine says is that, you know, we should never measure a life by the tragedy of its loss, but by what it brought during its presence. And boy, what a powerful presence on the planet. This is called Sirens. Oh, and this is from the new book, Slow Lightning in Practical Poetry. So Monday through Friday, I host a morning meditation and free write online. It's free and open. We've been doing it since January 12th last year. And this is our first gift. Sirens. I don't know where that blaring is headed. If a fire has erupted or someone's breath has been taken. We are a culture of triage and containment. We prepare for the worst, for the spread, for the scourge, for the vote, for the verdict to come in. Best reparation for damages done. What reparation restores a life? I don't know death at all, but wonder if we can ever really know life before that impersonal reaper arrives. It's a fierce membrane bursting, wide bell ringing, a riddle of one last breath. When my father breathed his last, he was navigating a B-25 bomber, or he ended up at the bottom of the sea near Okinawa, or he was hospitalized and singing. He chose his own going home, he said. He let 2 breaths out without one in, had a date with an angel, wouldn't dream of making her wait. Did you want me to read one more, Elena? Or something's frozen. Is it me?
No, you're good.
Oh,
That was beautiful, Peggy.
Read another one, Peggy.
one more?
Read.
Elena's muted.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what she wanted me to do. I'm
No,
trying to decide between the closing poem in this book and the one next to Tay in this old chapbook, which probably only Marie has seen.
Read that one.
Yeah, that one.
That one.
For
So
sure.
this is a poem that I had the great honor of reading with the Voices of Leimert Park at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books. It was just kind of one of the highlights of my poetry life. Winter poem, 2006. Consider the pine ridge and the landscape below. See the glacier disappearing. Everywhere night curls up into the lap of azure, rinses heaven with the bluing of grandma's hair curling at the temple like silk and forgetting. An ego that writes its name across an envelope sent with mixed intent, an unrefined medium. Consider the medium and the message and the page upon which it is written. Consider the pine ridge and the message written in the landscape. Consider perfection and the depth of the eye, language of the body, point of first inclination. Consider the inclination and all blessed interference. Consider it all divine, all magnetic to the whole. Consider it meant to be instead of your greed, instead of your desire. Consider the road, the way it curls north around the creek, the light, dusty striations through spruce and eucalyptus. Ah, eucalyptus, its full aromatic hue, the sterling dance of her silver leaves, their crackle and laughter beneath your feet, and the full spirit of the glade in the space just above the crown of your head. Consider the glade and the still small deer who shares it, the young fawn, the glade, and the space just above the crown of your head. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have some echoes going on here. Perhaps everybody needs to mute so that doesn't happen. Hi, Marc. All the way from San Francisco, Oakland, sorry, right?
Actually, Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, everybody.
Oh, let me unmute. Yes, can you hear me? Let's see if I can turn on my video here. Trying to turn on my video. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, what have we got? I should be appearing.
Oh, here you are.
Yeah, there I am.
Now we can see you and hear you.
Good. Well, hello, everybody.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah, it is still relatively new. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so now let's continue with Steve McCormick. Steve McCormick is a producer, teacher, microphone extraordinaire, maker, creator, and poet. So please welcome Steve McCormick.
Thank you, Elena. Wow, doing it together, all alone. I love that.
That's right.
Way to set the tone for the evening. I'm going to read 4 poems. 3 of them are relatively short, and one of them's a little bit longer. I will give brief descriptions about what they're about. And this first one is called Lost Bird, and this is for a friend of mine, Carl Bremer, who passed away. Well, it's getting on 10 years now, but he was a amazing fan of music and an author. I really miss him these days, particularly because of his brand of journalism voice that I think we really miss. He wrote a book called The Madness of Michelle Bachmann. I don't know if anybody remembers Michelle Bachmann.
Yeah,
When
I remember.
she was on a political stage a few years ago. He was from her district in Minnesota, Stillwater, Minnesota. And he laid bare a lot of her frailties and just kind of cut to the chase on what she was all about. But anyway, I really miss Carl. So this is for Carl, Lost Bird. Flown the nest, leaving feathers in the wind. Gone, but not abandoned by love. Or blown over like a derecho, straight lining to parts unsung and unknown. Never more to flick and flitter amidst the switchgrass and rye, nor the willowy thickets of the northwesterly shelter belts. Words scribbled with florid elan, resplendent in anima, torn from the spine to fly on so many winged folds, draft heavenward, high above Tellurian torpor, like giggling dirigibles lifted by laughing gases. Sketches of squiggled lines riddled with involuntary twitches and the wispy, twisted tremors of an aged and addled hand were then charcoaled over with vine linden switches and smudged into rice press-ups or skimmed off in mysterious parsonages. Couped pas encore by any gilded aviary, cast forth, hell-fired and muck-raked, claws taloned in on a quarried prey, stripped to the quick in spirographical orbit, flung out on fictitious forces, bound and tethered no longer. Fly away, lost bird, spirited as you are on our prismatic prayers. Okay. Sort of on the theme of some of my male mentors who have passed away. Last month we lost Robert Bly, who was an amazing poet and a translator. Translated a lot of Neruda poems, like our friend William O'Daly. You can find Robert Bly's translations of Neruda. But he was also perhaps better known for kind of fostering the men's movement in the early 90s, which you know, it's kind of a funny movement and sort of a reactionary movement to women's liberation and a lot of what women were doing, coming together in solidarity. He sort of spawned a new movement, which was kind of laughable at the time. And my funny Robert Bly story is that during that period of time, I was living in Minnesota, and the person that I was in a relationship with, her aunt was in a lesbian relationship with Robert Bly's ex-wife, Carol Bly, who was also a formidable writer, who passed away in the early 2000s, maybe around 2005. And they just used to sit around and just dig on Robert Bly. They just thought he was the lowest form of humanity. But anyway, so this is a poem that I wrote for Robert Bly, and when he passed away last month, I kind of dusted it off. It's my longest one that I'm going to read, so bear with me, but this is for Robert Bly. Men's movement. They sit around a fire and hoard a hard and hollowed, unholy gourd, while the women wonder, where exactly have they gone? They ring the fire and sing of forgotten duty and ill-gotten booty, the seeds scraped out by hand, the worms clawed from cloudy bottles, songs wrung from and won in battle, the misery, the mystery, ringing in the history of the shrouded bell, words conjured judiciously from the delicious lexicon, Texan Xanadu, Kubla Khan, the Kathmandu of old San Juan. Sticks and stones and river waltzes, deltas salted away, away, swaying in the reeds like old John Deere's, rusting in the rye, their worn and tired wheels leaving circles in the fields where they sleep like elk, while spotted cats race across the sacred acres and then stop like tenpence on the step, to pray for the rare pairings in the painted apiaries, the spiraling slingshots of hot air balloon ever upwards, warding off evil. They live in the moment, mentioning nothing, hunting for the force in nature. His name is the wind, and it swirls like girls dancing in the dust, devils veiled in dresses, redressing crimes of craven lust and valence. He explores every bond and combination verbatim. He grumbles and groans, mumbles and moans, and the words tumble home from lung to tongue in grooves of chiseled syzygy, drifting in and out of orbit like a blue-tailed comet. He is but a mass of ice and gas. His poems, an indigo plasma that burn out into ink in the night, then return in sync to the light, every so often to be softened by woman, daughter, mother, sister, wife, or lover, warmed and loved, and then hurled out again against will to sail the celestials, unpaired and alone, eclipsed and in shadows, in the lee, he eddies and settles on the ground. Time is like peyote. Coyotes move in the margins, nigh to the eye like dreams, drifting visions that seem unseen but felt, the colors smelt, the odors heard, the words tasted, and nothing wasted. The music is a lucid hallucination of ochre and the airy whistle of an ocarina, and the airy whistle of an ocarina, of wicked Felina and Lena, of Fellini and Leone, of flowers blooming in the moon, verse after verse of verse, unrehearsed, but cursed and cussed like ruined ruins, like ruined runes, discussed with disgust, as blustering gusts of ghosts lash the rock and the stone, unlocking the bones buried deep in the sand, and hand-painted glyphs, tea robins and Robin Hood, and the ballads of the hooded Little Red Riding Girls. And the wolf is in the wind, howling at the door. The trap of the mind swings open, and sense melts away, swaying in the willows on pillows of scent, on senseless colors, on bellowing yellows, on bittersweet blues, and a displaced taste rings in the ears, bringing back the years of wasted tears and abject fears, salted away in the dried fruit of the gourd, hollowed and swallowed, whole and unholy, the calf skin stretched thin across the drum, the thumbs numb and the rum runs, and the strings are strummed, all to the wretched edge of time. The rhythms sketched in rhyme and etched into the mind, told and retold, to have and to hold, while the women wonder, where exactly have they gone? Okay, I've got two shorter poems, if that's okay, Elena. This first one kind of follows up that theme. It's about a bunch of old guys looking out the windows where in the last days of their life, wondering where their life has gone. The willows in the wind blow silken kisses, beckoning like the hip swerves of girls, the waving whiplashes of flittering eyes, Rapunzeled locks cast into the wilderness, only to torment with the bedeviling tease of Babylon trees, the overseers we've become. And weeping the tears of squandered years, we watch the ballets of the briared braids, blind to the thorns of roseate affairs, and deaf to the serpentine songs, to the sweetened juice of the apricot fruits, wood cut and scarred, skin dark and hard. The willows in the wind, like the tails of fish, their side-winding tracks across the sand. We have heaved ourselves up from the sea and crawled through mirage to oasis. The hum in our ears, the cicadas trill, the nymphs singing lazy lays. And falling through the branches now, the unnested fledglings flit and flirt, spreading their tentative little wings, hummingbirds with ruby blushes, stirring the souls of the old clay molders, while our fingers twitch helpless in our laps. And one more, this is for the new year. 5 or 6 years ago, while New Year's was happening, there was a party next door to my house, and they had a bunch of balloons, and one single solitary balloon came over the fence and kind of hovered right outside my studio door in my backyard and just kind of teased me. So I wrote a poem about her. Fortuna. Why, hello there, Fortuna. You, future, full of hot air, hovering outside my door. What a nice surprise. You, giggling dirigible, punch drunk and lost looking. I know who you are, and I know why you've come, but it pleases me nonetheless. Look at you, all puffed and cheeky, levitated with bubbly, yet tethered with ribbon. What am I going to do with you? No leaden zeppelin, you. You wear a quicksilver mask and wink and bob in the evening's cold cosplay. Smirking, I pass, crossing this threshold of time, stepping past my lady luck and dancing in the new day. Silly girls toy with dandies, and you have tricked me thrice. But this wise old fellow falls no longer for the skirting curtsy or the flirting gaze. Oh, crestfallen little balloon, dragging your ribbon in the dust, why so surprised? Surely you acknowledge your body all discretions. Who could blame my heed? For I have seen you skip away and float with kites over my hopes and dreams. And so I lift my glass to you lilting lassies of glory, but I hold my heart in my hand. My first steps, solo Romeo, bittersweet paces of purpose, 1, 2, 3 stepping this 4-square square. No one the wiser than me. But lo, who is this? Stripped of her visage and her ribbon tied in a bow. Miss Fortuna has followed. Her pride has been swallowed, but time will leave no man alone. I just realized I need to get a recording of Greg Bell reading that poem with a Shakespearean accent. Thank you all.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. Did I just see your brother joining
He might have. I sent
just
him a link.
now?
I sent him a link.
Okay, all right.
Steve, you don't need anybody else to read that poem.
Thank you, Greg.
You bet.
Okay, Robert McCormick. Okay, let's proceed. Greg Bell.
All right. Elena, how much time do you want us to take?
Well, you can just do, 1 or 2 poems and we'll come back.
On the
So,
open mic?
yeah,
Or
it depends on the
first,
length.
I have short poems, but short is something I just retrieved from that great repository of all things that matter, right? The internet. And it is this is a part. It's an extract of a poem by Thich Nhat Hanh, who, as you all have heard, died in the past 24 hours sometime. This is from a poem called Condemnation, about what we call the Vietnam War, which is was published in a Buddhist weekly. And it reads in part, "Whoever is listening, be my witness. I cannot accept this war. I never could, I never will. I must say this 1,000 times before I am killed. I am like the bird who dies for the sake of its mate, dripping blood from its broken beak and crying out, 'Beware, turn around and face your real enemies. Ambition, violence, hatred, and greed.'" All right, so I'll move on to read a poem, a recent poem of mine. Here we go. It's called Erewhon, and I say this with a nod to Samuel Butler, who wrote a story by the title Erewhon, which means nowhere backwards. Or unless you live in LA and you're familiar with it as a natural food store. And I did a little rewrite, and I'm just making a notation about the rewrite so I don't read the wrong one. Okay, so Erewhon. In the hopes that someone will one day read this, I write to you, dear stranger, if reader you are, to try to help you to know, to understand what might have happened. Here in this place you may have never imagined, this place just west of the moon, though not so fanciful as you may now think, as the trajectory of the moon we displaced to protect us from climate crisis, which didn't work. So that now the moon rises from a quadrant 7 degrees north of each succeeding previous azimuth. As vegetation evaporates to root and cord, thorn and thistle and the fruits of the earth that we once took for granted come no more to our table. Oh, we have our entertainments, our holographic simulations are so lifelike they very nearly replace reality. I say nearly, because we can no longer live on simulations, though our sim companions can be a comfort to us. They're animatronics powered by nuclear fusion. But without water, we slowly waste away. Even the animals share our plight. Songbird's gone, the red-tailed hawk now takes what desert doves survive. The quail still dodder across the powdered land, seeming to gabble, "No water, no water." Gaunt coyote comes purple-tongued to our door to accuse. Our arid lives are air-conditioned presence. So with the lack of water and the heat at 130 degrees plus, there's not much left to hope for, except you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Okay. And you'll come back, right?
Yeah, I reckon.
Okay. So now let's welcome Lois P Jones, who has a reading tomorrow. And she's been going from prize to prize, from reading to reading.
Thank you. I'm really here to hear the features, but I wanted to say, Peggy, that was a beautiful poem for Thich Nhat Hanh. And I just attended the ceremony that they had for him online. Just really gorgeous. You know, that the sound of the bell is so centering. And of course, they had that throughout the ceremony. And that made me think of one of his poems. So I'm just going to read this poem called The Great Bell Chant. May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them cease. Understanding come to their hearts, and they transcend the path of sorrow and death. The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens. A beautiful child appears in the heart of a lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing spring to our mountains and rivers. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind calm, my body relaxed. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to a safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully.
Thank you. Thank you, Lois. Beautiful. Okay, let's proceed with Richard Modiano. Welcome. We miss you, Richard. So I'll read your bio in case anybody out there doesn't know you. Richard Modiano is a native of Los Angeles. He attended the University of Hawaii and NYU. While a resident of New York City, he became active in the literary community connected to the Poetry Project, where he came to know Gregory Corso, Allen Ginsberg, Anne Waldman, William Burroughs, and Ted Berrigan. In 2001, he was a programmer at Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center, joined the Board of Trustees in 2006. From 2010 to 19, he served as executive director. In that time, he produced and curated hundreds of literary events. So please welcome Richard Modiano.
Thank you, Elena. Dozo yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Please give me your favor and attention. If you've never doubted the integrity of your superiors or their right to demand your obedience, nor felt the sting of wishing for something that could not be found on a department store shelf or voting ballot. If you've never fallen so deeply in love that it seemed that you had been sleepwalking through life until that moment, never daydreamed desperately in a board meeting or on the job, never been carried away by extremities of emotion while everyone around you remained unmoved and oblivious. If you've never suspected that real life must be elsewhere, somewhere beyond the shopping malls and the suburbs, off the highway, over the fields and oceans, if there is no part of you unfulfilled by stock options and prime time programming and cutting-edge digital technology, then perhaps you are a prisoner of the bourgeoisie, the last barbarians on earth. Poem for Danny Baker. The world of real life, the raw urgency of the moment, the taste of black coffee, of charred red meat, the recoil of the Glock in your hand, the poem that forms in your brain waits for us beneath history. Its mysteries passed down through generations in the currency of moments so intense they annihilate time itself. Moments that can be suppressed, discouraged, and denied by the rules, laws, and regulations that hem us in from every side. We adventurers track these moments through this world as hunters track the most prized of prey. As long as we have hearts in our chest, we will find ways to them again and again. History is haunted by its own karma. The moment of freedom, of real poetry, brings all its unsettled debts back into play, to be discharged forever so that life can really begin. What we want now are moments so overwhelming, so irresistible, that the entire control system of regulated life melts before their scorching radiance. Comrade. I like to read and write in coffee shops, old habit, escape from noisy lodgings of bygone days. I share the place with the gentrified locals, fixated on glowing, my cat is in the way. Fixated on glowing screens, if alone, yakking about what's cool if with others, talking about dreams of screenplays and auditions with the eagerness of youthful promise. They pay me no mind, the old fellow in threadbare clothes, scribbling in a pocket notebook with a fountain pen. The young barista, pierced, braided, tattooed, took the money and handed me a coffee. As we made the exchange, I said cheerily, "Thanks, comrade." Leaning in and glancing side to side conspiratorially, the barista whispered back, "How did you know that I was a communist?" After the Catechism for S.A. Griffin. Truth will get communicated via old means, not new media. It will be shared by word of mouth and on paper, not online. Current social media is saturated. There is too much of it peddling lies and fear and loathing, too much commercial media play, too many channels that offer people too little choice. A new underground truth will emerge like it once did, from smart people living off very little, living in ruined and cheap neighborhoods, communicating via old experimental media. And there will be cafes and hangouts where kindred spirits and fellow travelers can commune with one another, bump into one another, talk and argue with one another, share sounds together, maybe play some old jazz riffs they can be present in person and engage in old debates about the future. They have direct human encounters, not mediated screen encounters, and have direct, there will be new repertory theaters that will emerge, reenacting old plays by Beckett or Brecht, or by new living theater troupes, putting fresh spirits in old staples, reinventing a new vanguard, inspiring new audiences while re-energizing old ones who have not entirely forgotten what it was like the first time around. What would begin again is a new poetry underground, where a new critical culture can be incubated, a will to live differently like it did before, making our cities interesting and democratic again. Or perhaps it will not happen. Perhaps nothing like this will ever happen, not again. Perhaps it is no longer possible for poetry to go on, having lost so much. Try again with the old answers, fail again, fail better. And even if poetry cannot go on, it will go on, maybe for another 5,000 years. Poem for Dennis Cruz, inspired by his book, The Beast Is We. I saw a black tarantula crawling out from under the flower pots. Have you ever seen one? They are not spiders. They are black and furry and beautiful because when ugliness and wickedness are as deep as existence, when they come down from eternity, they have a perfection of their own. I watched this beast and I said to myself, how beautiful you can be with your long strangler's paws, your fine corset of dusky velvet, your furry belly, your fabulous jaws. It was when a big drop of poison fell. That's how you were born. And you live because you are perfect. But I'm going to take my revenge on you, filthy insect. I've known too many victims, and I have a debt to pay. And just imagine, the tarantula understood me. He was paralyzed, befuddled by his destiny. He looked around stupidly for a way out, but for him, there was no way. My eyes hypnotized him. I was so sure that he wouldn't go away, I went into the kitchen for the hammer. It gave me pleasure to swing the hammer on the black beast, and I laughed as though I'd had one drink too many. I crushed the velvet tarantula with one blow. Crack! That's what you've got to do from time to time in this world, or the air would be unbreathable. Let's see. Go underground. After the defeat of the Paris Commune, Octavio, a 17-year-old poet protagonist, said the blood of its victims drained away all hope for his generation. For a long time to come, Rimbaud said, truth will have to go underground. It had been reduced to tatters along with life. Once again, truth has similarly been reduced to tatters along with life. To trace out any hope of its recovery, poets need to organize underground, follow old mole of old, agitate underground, assemble in low-rent storefronts, in sunken basements, maybe in communal squats, somewhere cheap, somewhere far away, or perhaps close by. Build, begin again, build up again. Truth today is more beautiful in the underground than in the commercial overground or in the nonprofit overground. Truth will not be voiced from the rich core, but from the honest poor periphery, the margins of life. From the margins of our cities, from its grungy peripheral neighborhoods, from broken down informal zones à défendre, defended to the end. There, nothing will be truer than nothingness, the source of a radical new beginning. When I lived in New York City, I used to know Zoe Tamerlis, who was a character in anarchist circles there, poet, writer, and actor. Her signature role was as Ms. 45. And she was associated with Abel Ferrara in his early work and later co-wrote the screenplay for his film, The Bad Lieutenant. Poem for Zoe Tamerlis. Cats leap across my heart when I see your full red lips and the glassy water breaks with white sparks, scattering your words in all directions. Zoe, your crowned scalp with ink black hair, a halo of dawn over the urban river's skyline. Tonight you see through my words. Zoe of twilight ruby, and I sleep through your breath. Zoe of black leather, I dream through your tattooed arms. Zoe of a desert where the hawks turn blue, and I walk in your palm of Mount Meru. Zoe of obsidian in the cup in the coup d'etat. I'm lost in your solar breast, the flares made fertile. Zoe in a night of honeysuckle, Zoe of crystal palace, Zoe of Mongolian steppes covered with gold krugerrands, Zoe of boots under a red brick tenement where anarchists are plotting our liberation, Zoe of dolphin spume, Zoe of llama-made helium, Zoe. And I will finish with a word, poem for Ivis Berry. You have to select a word. It will be talked about as little as possible. and have a deep suggestiveness-like nature, bloom from within itself. At the edge of the fate encircling you, it will become darkly and sweetly ripened. Of 100 experiences, it always will be the sum total of only one. One teardrop becomes the harvest of all teardrops. A single point of red neon on Hollywood Boulevard on a dark evening is the light of the whole world. And after that, your poem, like a substance entirely fresh, released far away from your memory, the same as a chord plucked from a Stratocaster, the same as haze over the San Fernando Valley in spring, will suddenly begin to sing from its own recollection. Thank you.
Elena, you're muted.
You're muted, Elena.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Richard. So also in 2019, Richard was elected Vice President of the California State Poetry Society. The Huffington Post named him as one of the 200 people doing the most to promote American poetry. And here we have it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. Suzanne, will you be reading something?
No, just here to listen.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you change your mind, let us know. Marc Olmsted, would you read something?
Something very short.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a feeling you were going to say that, so I quickly grabbed my notebook. I was here to see my wonderful old friend Richard. But here's a short poem. On the Zoom video meeting, Buddhist elders discuss Costco hearing aid deals.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we do have some reverbs and echoes here for anybody who is not muted. I do apologize. So it's maybe the wind outside
I
too.
think it's Richard on his computer again. He
Okay.
forgot to mute again. You can mute him, Elena.
That darn cat.
That's right, it's the kitty.
He's okay. He's all right now.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much. Now, Amelie, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Do you have something for us?
I have a 6-line poem. It's very short.
Thank you.
All right. My love as a mannerist painting. No deposition, no embrocation of limbs and loin, no lacrimal traces cooling on the zygoma, no lips to brow, no, suffering's over now, no arms, but to release and commend the ascent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Amelie. Okay, so are you sure, Bill Moore? Do you have a 6-line poem? Do you have something?
There is a poem that I wrote years ago that was about a lecture I attended by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I'm probably going to put the poem in my blog, but I'd rather not read. I'm really enjoying hearing. It's been a while since I've been at any reading, even on Zoom. So it's just really nice. Could Marie read next? I'd really love to hear some of her poems.
You've got it. Marie,
Thank
are you
you.
ready?
Yes.
So, Marie Lecrivain is a poet, co-publisher of Sybriatic Press, and an ordained priestess in the Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica. Her work has appeared in California Quarterly, Gargoyle, Non-Binary Review, Orbis, Piran's Fountain, and other journals. She's authored several books of poetry and fiction, including The Virtual Tablet of Irma Tre and Ashes to Stardust, a David Bowie tribute anthology, forthcoming in 2022. Please welcome Marie Lecrivain.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you for keeping this reading going through the pandemic. I hope we all get to meet in person someday, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear great poetry and share what I have. This first poem is actually dedicated to Deborah Warner, who was my co-publisher for Sybaritic Press. She and I founded it in 1997. Unfortunately, she passed away last year. So it's just myself and our other partner, John. This is it's a Haibun. It's in the new, I don't know if you can see that. It's probably not. It's called The Gentle Sway of Bamboo. It's an anthology put out by the Southern California Haiku Study Group Anthology. I slowly wake from a deep sleep. I feel for the moment rested and a bit confused. Coffee, feed the cats, check the morning news. These are the thoughts that present themselves as I rise from the bed, straighten the covers, and make my way to the kitchen. My two little house panthers are already by the food bowl, green eyes full of impatience. I feed the cats, put water on to boil, grab a jar of instant espresso, and then a sturdy mug from the dish drainer. I wonder what to do with my Sunday. All around me are unfinished tasks, both domestic and creative. I'm not inclined to perform any of them. Coffee in hand, I walk back into the bedroom and pull back the curtains. The room fills with lavender and gold light, and then I remember. Another sunrise, alone, without you. And that's for my sister and partner in publishing, Deborah Warner. I'm going to read a poem from my favorite chapbook. It's called The Virtual Tablet of Irma Tre. And for those of you who might be wondering about that part of my biography about being an ordained priestess, I belong to a fraternal and religious order called Ordo Templi Orientis. And within that is an ecclesiastical arm. And this is I'm a priestess in Ecclesia Catholica Gnostica. But one of the things that we do study is alchemy. And so this was a chapbook of alchemy. I wrote it in 9 days, and it was based off of, I just did an A through Z of alchemy. And this is called Bain Marie. In Marie P's soul kitchen, it sits on the back of the stove next to the teapot to be employed on the following occasions: holidays and cross quarters, weddings and funerals, and emergencies like when your heart is broken. This is the time to put yourself in the capable hands of Madame Maria P. She will make you tea and read you stories from the Book of Life, while your heart, enclosed in copper and stainless steel, simmers in aquavitae. When your heart is healed, it will be carefully placed and sewn back into your chest with the admonition: when you join the male with the female, you'll find nothing but trouble. And that's from The Virtual Tablet of Irma Tre, which is a riff off of the Emerald whatever by Hermes Trismegistus. Some of you may have heard this poem, but it's actually one of my favorites because it's when I finally decided to stop stressing out too much about getting older. Because as the older you get, the less you care about things, the things that people would normally stress about, like appearance. And it's called My Amygdala Didn't Get the Memo. And it's got an epigraph here from William Butler Yeats. There is another world, but it isn't this one. I always love the moment in TV shows and novels when the self confronts the self and inspects the other for mistakes, a bad haircut, frumpy clothes, and an addiction to eyeliner. Now she's coming for me. I see her out of the corner of my eye waiting to pounce, although lately she's been throwing up her hands in the air. I'm done with you, she says, or seriously, I came all this way for nothing. She doesn't like the fact that I no longer contour, and I'm down to 1 cup of coffee a day. Her nose wrinkles in distaste at my penchants for wearing sun hats and my collection of butterfly tattoos. These things make me happy. I thought they'd make her happy too, but clearly that's not the case. Today, her hand reaches out to stop me from leaving the house in overalls and Louboutin heels. Winking at her, I smile. So close and so soon. I'm going to read 2 more poems. One is from a book I have coming out this summer called Dame of the West. And the other one is from a new series I'm working on, which I'll explain in a second. Dame of the West is, it's about me having to say goodbye to a lot of things and a lot of people in my life. Because again, that's what happens when you get older, including having to try and find yourself or what that idea of yourself is. And this is called Dame of the West DIY Plans. This morning, you gave me everything but the final ingredient for success. When I asked you why you confess you've never actually had the recipe. And the last component is something you've never been able to acquire. You mumble a tearful apology and scurry back to the kitchen, your shoulders collapsed in defeat. I then went to visit my neighbor, a former soldier turned welder of broken hearts, to ask his help in mending the link between my soul and intellect. He refused and stated no such connection exists, even as he held the jagged ends of the chain in both hands. Annoyed, I walk home and kick imaginary cans along the way. Failure weighs heavy on my back like a stubborn child who won't let the piggyback ride end. I know in my heart the only one that can help me is me, though it will involve a lot of binge watching of how-to videos, bribing a few daemons, and leaving my phone turned off so as not to get distracted by my best friend, self-sabotage. The last poem is from a series of poems that I'm writing that I made myself do it because it's a thing I don't like. I've been a student of the occult and of Tarot for most of my life, and a serious student of Tarot for the last 14 years. And the one deck that I don't like to work with or even to consider working with is the Rider-Waite deck, which is the most popular deck out there. So I decided to treat the trumps of the Tarot deck as an ekphrastic exercise. And for those of you who may or may not know, ekphrastic poems are basically they're derived off of a photograph or a painting or some sort of image. I don't know if you can see this, it's not coming through, but I wrote one about the magician, and you can look it up online. And this is called The Magician. And the reason I do this is because in confronting these things I don't like, which we all do, it helps us to understand ourselves better. No one told you it was not only a costume party, but an interview. The cloak is a bit much, with ill-fitting shoulders that only balance when you assume a Saturday Night Fever pose. Thankfully, the roses and lilies are fake, because you'd be reaching for your Benadryl. The plate and the cup are empty, and the cutlery is awkward and sharp. You pick up the rod and hold it up to the sky, feeling quite ridiculous, but also appropriate in this moment. Why are you here? What are you to do next? Why is there a figure 8 floating above your head? You realize it's not just you asking these questions. And for a moment, you revel in the feeling of feeling suspended between the earth and the unknown. There are so many ways to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Marie. Okay, moving on. Marc Petrie.
Thank you. It's a spectacular night of poetry. I'm just sitting here and I'm in awe. Seriously, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I appreciate this. I'm gonna read a short poem that I'm working on a book of poems that are about the ocean. Every poem is sort of connected to the ocean. And this one is called She Walks the Narrow Beach. She walks the narrow beach north of the jetty, where the sea deposits thousands of river stones, smooth, polished, rubbed to a sheen. They click in her fingers before she tosses them back on the beach or into the bucket she carries them from the sea to her backyard, where her husband dug a narrow, shallow trough where she pours the stones. Over months, the stones form a river. She sits on her bench in the backyard next to the bird bath, under the guava tree, watching the sun gleam on the warm surface of the rocks, shining like the sparkling surface of the sea she misses.
Thank you. Thank you, Marc. Okay, Judy Barrat.
Hi, I have three sort of short poems. This first one is, let's see, this first one is actually a pandemic poem, and it's called What Enemy Should We Fear? For a brief moment in time, the world was beautiful again. A clear, bright, cloudless blanket of magnificent azure shone above. Flowers grew wild and rampant. A profusion of rainbow colors studded tall grass. Trees reached out their limbs and danced in the cleanest air they'd breathed in decades. They welcomed birds which had long ago abandoned them and now infused music in their hearts. The sweet tweet of sparrows, the coo-coo of doves, even the raw caw of crows. All of it was a joyful gift from Mother Nature to the world. Animals came out of hiding and freely roamed the city streets without fear of being hunted. Sea life returned to long deserted waters of rivers, streams, canals, and oceans no longer polluted by the fuel and detritus of man's construction. All of her children smiled. There was a viral pandemic. Humans were in hiding, individually sequestered in their self-made prisons. They huddled unhappily in virtual, fear-filled boats while the natural world reclaimed its health and thrived. It was as if the earth had returned to its most glorious before technology, before trains, before automobiles, before airplanes, before ships, before man, before. And while this magic materialized in a little corner of the globe, the ever-wise leaders of man saw fit to spend their billions to send exploratory vehicles to outer space, to Mars, to discover whether life had ever existed there in past millennia. Far more important to them than to find and fund ways to ensure that life continues to exist here on Earth. Is man not the enemy of man? And let's see, I have, this poem is called That's Life. The grown-ups would gather and talk in muted whispers behind cupped hands about matters they wouldn't explain. There was laughter, lots of sighs, sometimes tears. Often someone said, that's life. I wondered what that meant as I waited for life to happen. And in the interim, I did as I was told, went to school to learn mathematics, spelling, history of the world, a little about a lot of things, but not much about life. There were friends, parties. I learned to dance, to kiss, more fun than mathematics. I also learned not everyone is kind, and I learned to forgive, though not always. Later, when I went to college, some of my friends went off to war. Not all came back, and I learned to cry, grown-up tears. And I no longer saw the world through a child's eyes. I married, had children of my own, tried my best to answer their questions, but there were times I couldn't, especially about disappointments, and in those instances, all I could think to say was, that's life. And one more. This is called When We Sleep. After midnight, in the darkest hours, when all the world's asleep, and we've surrendered all our powers to wander in the deep expanse beyond our senses, unaware of what we'll find, devoid of all defenses as we leave this realm behind. Do we still have ability to know what's dream or real? Or have we lost facility to interpret what we feel? What were the last thoughts in our minds before we reached the void? Would those thoughts now be defined as food for thought for Freud? What if beings from distant stars stealthily abduct us, and on return to our boudoirs we find that they have shucked us of our hardened shells of shattered goals we hide beneath our pride, to reveal our pure but tattered souls, buried deep inside? Are our actions weighed and measured and by mythic gods reviewed, and then solely for their pleasure are we with their ideals imbued? Oh, merciful gods, don't grieve us with your otherworldly tests, but leave us in the protective arms of Morpheus to rest. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Now let's hear Ken Scott.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. And that was an excellent feature, Marie. It was great to hear you read. This piece I'm going to do is dedicated to my mother, whom I loved very dearly, but who passed away in 2014. This piece is called I Was Wrong. There are times when alive is more of a mystery than dead. I thought the decades of my life had all but decoded you. But your burial in that coffin and the maelstrom that awaited me proved me wrong. My torch of wisdom extinguished by your last breath, I was forced to learn inconvenient truths. My soul baptized with fire in the very darkness of my own decades of relentlessly pompous ignorance. One layer of sanity after another torn away from me like autumn leaves falling. And I meander in life, half child off course and numbed by oceans of tears that will never be cried in a single lifetime. I am broken, like a clock that's only right twice a day, but fails to tell the hour of its own reckoning. Can I wake up now? End piece. Do I have space for another one? It's not a very long one, it's a short one.
Thank you, sure.
Okay, this piece is called Deviously Devilish Drakes. This is on a lighter note. Deviously devilish drakes duck down during dire days, deeply desired during desperately deserved disciplines. Drenched during droughts, daytime divas drink drastic delusion, destroying delightful dreams, distant dances, drawing distinct diagrams, deepening dutiful distractions, drowning, drowning, drowning drastically, diving deeply during daylight doubts departed. Descending dynamically down death-defying depths, drastically duplicitous drakes drink dauntingly delusional darkness. Dropping deeply deceptive diatribe during disciplinary deeds, doing damages dependably. Dynamically, divine deity dethrones deviously devilish drakes, dutifully disciplines deceitful drakes, drastically diminishes destructive drakes, during dauntless daylight dominions deploying delightful dreams, devotional dreams, deep, deep dreams. Do devoted daytime divas dutifully discern drake deeds dependably? Don't deliberate. Diligently do divinely devoted demonstrations differently. Draw dynamic disciplines deeply, dependably doing due diligence, delightfully. End piece. That's it.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. And now let's hear Dayna Leslie Hodges.
Hi, gosh, what a beautiful reading. I'm so glad I'm here tonight. Okay, this poem, it's a little different. I actually, in my acting class, sometimes we can call on a coach's challenge that we get when we get to class, and then we share it at the end of class. And my challenge was to write a poem inspired by the things that went on in class. And so it became a love poem. It's called Love Story. Manifestations of emotions matter. Even going numb is an emotion, and crying isn't the only way we feel our feelings. Curtain goes up, light comes on. Moments like these are beautiful. Awkward, lovable guy. I've loved you ever since I've met you. A story about falling in love. If love isn't involved, why bother telling the story? Trauma added to passionate human beings may look crazy to those considered normal, but normal really isn't normal. Girl sees who boy is. Boy doesn't always see who he is. Letters and deception exchange, but deception isn't love, but love was afraid. Life teaches the caterpillar when to fly, when butterflies fly when they are ready. Girl always sees boy as butterfly. Awkwardness leads to the beauty of this unfolding love story. I love you. You love me? Yeah, I do. We all lean in, rooting for their love. Wind at the back, seeing love in our hearts feeling. Do I have chemistry with you? I mean, chemistry is everything. Can we dance within the same story? I want to dance with you. There's going to be a lot of physicality. Speak up, and speak up for yourself. Never let anyone intimidate you into silence. Let's work this out. How do we begin? Maybe you're my hallucination. Sorry, I just lost my voice. Maybe you're my hallucination. I mean, why won't you go away? If I leave, you'll be right back where I found you. Can you live with that? It's the only way I can get rid of you. Do me a favor. Look at me. This is the evolution of freedom. Let your voice triumph. It's not my mouth, it's our mouth. I'm doing this for us. I'm doing everything I can night and day. We pace our dancing. We have chemistry. We need to learn how to fall so that we don't get hurt. And consider the possibilities. have clean thoughts. Listen intently. Let your humanity be true. Your expression will be interesting. We must be truthful. Our faces will speak, our eyes will reveal. Let us never exploit each other. I want to tell you the truth. I will never lie to you. I hope to prove to you that you can trust me. If you tell me what you know, I can help fill in the blanks. Okay, I will tell you my story. I trust you. Listening will always help. I feel connection when I'm listened to, and I want to be listened to by you. Our chemistry is so great now. This is our story now. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dayna. Now let's welcome Thea Mercouffer.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. What lovely, lovely stuff. Thanks for sharing. I'm gonna read half of a short story that I've been working on called Nothing is Dead. I treat everything as though it had a soul. I have an intimate relationship with my clothes and shoes, for instance. Sometimes I'll wear a blouse just because it looks forlorn in the closet, sad that it hasn't seen the world in so long. I wear it and it comes back to life. Yes, I said it. I think clothes and furniture and silverware and appliances, especially appliances, have a life. They age, they tire, they die, just like everything else in nature. That's the joy effect that Marie Kondo talks about, taken to an extreme. Judge me, I don't care. I can feel life vibrating in things, and it makes me love some and hate some and be indifferent to others. Pick up a shirt, any shirt, and take a good feel of it. Close your eyes, hold it, and let it tell you. Alive, pompous, quirky, stifled, tired, perhaps even dead on arrival, filled with pain, suffering, unease, generosity, joy, and perhaps a whole repertoire of emotions that we don't even know how to articulate. Everything has life, and everything has personality. Look at that accent chair, poking its legs in 4 different directions with its perky back and inviting fabric. I see it, full of attitude and eagerness. I see it flirting across the rug with the round orange swivel chair. They're so obvious. Get a room, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Thea. Fun. Let's hear, there was someone else here that disappeared. Oh, Wayne. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Elena. Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
Praying for religion. I ducked my half-empty head under the Bible pages to see if there was anything there for me. My shoes had been confiscated in lieu of transgressions. The floor was uneven, with a couple of planks missing. The wood was faded where carpet had buried its threads, leaving behind puddles of tacks. I stepped in each one. Both feet went numb. I found a spot against the wall to lean upon. I felt my brain heating up. A young woman directly across from me was moving her lips. Her eyes were shut, her voice in a soft. I could see her silver choker chain crucifix necklace against her chocolate brown throat. A God to burden our guilt, a river to baptize our souls. I felt the wind of prayer sent out, blowing past me at a rate I could hardly conceive, scattering like dust and owl feathers. The gray sky was singing the blues to the mountaintops. I heard the clouds wailing and moaning. Raindrops were slaughtering lambs as they fell. Pregnant virgins were being sacrificed for the love of fear. A great weight rested on my back, sweating and stabbing. Memory came back to my feet with the heat of evil steps behind me. My beard was swaddled in blood, caked with disbelief. Nothing could be grasped that felt like a saving grace. The earth shook with forgiveness. Then it all made sense. The prayers had no life in them, only the taste of contradiction. The pages were silent except for the pricked up dog ears. A God to burden our guilt, a river to baptize our souls. The lesson of pain is thought divine, yet love is imperfection. I opened my mouth to speak, but only the lie of material substance spilled out. The young choker-chained woman was now carrying chucking stones in her starched pinafore. She called my name and threw them at me. They felt like kisses on my cheeks and temples, though I bled. She continued to stone me with larger and larger stones, bigger and longer kisses. The godhead of pain, love, doubt descended upon my belief in anything. The carpet tacks in my feet reminded me to breathe. I ducked my half-empty head into scriptures for wisdom and came up with only these words. Thank you.
Thank you, Dig. Thank you. Lynn, are you reading something?
Yes, I am. I do have a poem.
Okay, wonderful. Lynn Bronstein.
Yes. Let me bring it up.
Okay.
Okay, I wrote 4 new poems this week, and this is one of them, called The Crude and the Sweet. I could not have predicted how it would end with a sandwich he made for me, a wedge of meatloaf wrapped in a slice of rye. Draped around the meat like a tortilla, it was awkward in my hand, but well-intentioned. It just wasn't gourmet cooking, and it sure as hell wasn't a diamond with him on his knees asking if we could be forever and all that jazz. If I had known it would be our last date, I would have held that sandwich like a bride holds her bouquet. I can't even say how much I would enjoy love without clumsiness. And even as I say it, I know there's no way to avoid it. The world is full of men who are sad little boys, whose looks belie that they never grew up. Unable to reach that place where girls were already planning the rest of their lives, they offered what they could. Desire was easy. They savored femaleness in the smooth pages of Playboy. I wasn't any better. I slept with record albums, pretended the shrink wrap was black leather. When we were kids, we were all amateurs at sex and love. We made the crude sacred and left the sense and sweetness to the randomness of fate. It might be fun to be a romance novice again, to sigh over someone who seems just wonderful in spite of all the stumbling. Yet I find myself tearing up at the memory of that sandwich. A hasty nibble, assembled from leftovers, and possibly an expression that in my longing for sweet songs, I did not hear.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Quaternion, are you going to read?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, here we go.
All right, let me pull up my word processor. Give me just a sec. So I also have 3 kind of short-ish ones.
Can you do a couple and then because we're going to come back, but I want to give also Steve a chance to play some music. I think we're sort of ready for some music. So do 2 and then come back.
Well, you know what? I'm down for some Steve music. How about I let Steve McCormick play us some music and
then you'll come back.
And then I'll come back.
Okay, sounds like a good idea. Thank you.
Hear that? Nightingale, inspiration, affirmation, poet muse. Nightingale, despite your beauty, it is my duty to honor you. I won't judge you, I won't bear witness, I won't kiss with the kiss of death. Nightingale, you are the one for whom I hold a candle as I hold my breath. Nightingale, you sing a mad song, a very sad song, a song of thirst. Nightingale, your desire is a fire that must be nursed. So I lay my birch around you, and I blow softly on the coals. Till love is burned out of our control. Nightingale, in the morning, with no warning, I feel the spark. Nightingale, your body moves me as you approve me with your heart. So I wrap my arms around you, and I let you feel my love. Nightingale, you are the last one I'll be thinking of. Nightingale, you are the last one I'll be thinking of. You are the last one I'll be thinking of.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Eva, are you going to read today?
Not tonight, Elena. I'm just
Tonight.
listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being here. Happy
Oh,
New
sure.
Year. Okay, so now we move to Quaternion. Neon.
Delightful. I guess I'll just read the two.
Okay.
I'll start with a couple of new ones. I guess I'll just read a couple of new ones. This one's called Two Castles. Give them 2 castles, houses built of bedrock. But watch, pillars of autumn will rebel when shook, when rebels have holy war. Wet pages with white out, white robes washed as warning. Stone men on horses, their faces are carved on the mountain. Swords and scales have lost their luster, but not their lust. And we are not the color-blinded ideals, but the divided tribe, a less perfect union. Unraveled yarn drops. The pretense, brittle bones jutting from jugulars, the heart, mizzenmast of dry rot and pine beetles, the soul, windsock cut loose, we are drifting apart on quicksand. Foundations of compromise collapsed, the court crumbles, a king is crowned, and the crowd cries his name as Messiah. And this one's working title, Stolen Names. Old men. Their fraying hems, their graying hair. Hold fast. Raised fist, we are not what has been said of us. But never in the splendor of the stars was seen the final shape. It has been forsaken before idols in the nave. The Lord whose love has never graced the loathsome creatures. He clothes them in garments marked by their misery, and with a mask called suffocation, their names are taken. Replaced with stones, their burden heavy, yoked to the willow, weeping in its hollow beyond light. So young women will wake each day in the shade cast into the cavern, and hate their withering years, yearning for the freedom to be.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now I think we're moving to the second round. Okay. Greg, do you have another?
Yes, I do. I've got plenty, but I'll go with another. Here we go. This is a bit of a follow-up to Marie's mention of Hermes Trismegistus. And the title is As Above. Hermes Trismegistus is said to have coined the phrase as above, so below. An elegant phrasing, you will allow, all things coming from the one thing. We look to the heavens and wonder at earthbound molecules with planetary distances in the spark and sweep of orbits, alchemy, sympathetic magic, singular creation. So what I want to know, is there a Starbucks up there? And terrestrial black holes, is that where the lost socks go?
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. How is it where you guys are? It's so windy out here. And all I could hear is the chimes chiming. It's Heather. It's Heather Donavon.
Hi, you guys. I'm sorry to I just put him to bed. So
I missed your voice on the Nightingale Song.
I had to cut the last 10.
My goodness, me too.
I kept hearing your voice.
Well, wonderful. I'm glad you could hear it in spirit. Thank you.
Will you sing something
Oh, gosh.
in a minute?
Let's see. Something like a cappella?
Is Steve still there?
He's with Donavon putting him to bed. I could just
Wow.
do something a cappella if you wanted.
Okay.
Nice.
Perhaps I could think of something. How about? Well, I'll just do a little snippet of an old standard. I might have sung it. I probably sung it before for you guys. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I get along without you very well. Of course I do. Except when soft rains fall. I've got the words. Then I recall the thrill of being sheltered in your arms. Of course I do. But I get along without you very well. I've forgotten you just like I should. Of course I have. Except to hear your name or someone's laugh that is the same. But I've forgotten you just like I should.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
You guys, thank you for listening.
It's like, it's so windy out there. It's just wild, wild. Okay, but Lois came back. Well, you were here the whole time.
I've been here.
I know.
But now I do have to go.
Will you read another poem though before you go?
Thank you. I really enjoyed hearing everyone. It's great. Super great. I'm full.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're moving on to Richard. Richard Modiano. That's such a great name, isn't it? Richard Modiano.
All right. Well, it's a Sephardic name. It means morning prayer.
I was just going to ask if it was Italian.
No, it's Sephardic.
Does that mean it has a Spanish influence? An Iberian influence?
Yes, it's Ladino, also known as Judeo-Spanish.
Right, from the Iberian Peninsula. Beautiful. Thank you, Richard.
Yes, only until 1492, then we were kicked out. Although I happened to be in Barcelona in 1978, staying with family. My father's cousin was living in Mexico. There were still Jews living in Spain after the expulsion. Several of them came back. I'll try and be brief about it. But during the first Spanish Republic, there was religious toleration, and it lasted through the second Spanish Republic, and after the triumph of fascism in 1939, once again the Jews were persecuted. There was a thing called the Jewish Archive Trico set up, and the synagogues were closed. So I happened to be in Spain visiting my relatives there. My father's cousin, who I called my aunt, had married the son of a Spanish exile who was living in Mexico. A lot of Republican Spaniards fled to Mexico. Anyway, they were back there, and he had opened a business called Laminart, which made furniture, and I went to work in his furniture factory. But I was there for Yom Kippur in the Central Synagogue in Barcelona, and it had been closed. The last time Yom Kippur was celebrated there was in October 1938. So this was the first time in 40 years that Yom Kippur was going to be celebrated at the synagogue, and I was there for that. So I wrote a poem about that. It's kind of long. It's not one that I have on hand. But let me see what I've got. I have, I think, one more. Also of historical interest. Let's see if oh, here it is. Here it is. The Forbidden Lunchbox. Displayed here in Hiroshima Peace Museum, but not allowed by the U.S. Congress to be shown to the U.S. public, 1995 Smithsonian Institute. Small rectangular metal lunchbox, charred food visible, said to be a mixture of rice, barley, and soybeans. The box looks remarkably clean, scoured by atomic fire, a little battered, but otherwise, once fitted with a new lid, usable. Belonged to Shigeru Oriman, first-year student at 2nd Hiroshima Prefectural Junior High School. He was exposed to the bomb at his building demolition worksite, 600 meters from the hypocenter. Every day with his classmates, he was mobilized to help with the demolition of building for fire lanes. On August 6th, as usual, taking the lunch his mother had prepared, he left home early in the morning. After the A-bomb fell, his mother wandered through the ruins of Hiroshima looking for him. Early on the morning of August 9th, on the bank of the Honkawa River, she found Shigeru's body with this lunchbox held tight under his stomach. The lunch Shigeru never ate was charred black. By order of Congress, no victims allowed. So.
Thank you, Richard. My windows are going to blow open.
Wow,
Marc, you only read one short poem. Do you have another?
Well, this is from the same trip that I made to Hiroshima in 2005 for the anniversary of the bombing. It's called Nozzle Nozzle, a bar in Hiroshima. A girl bar with red neon called Riddle. The young woman took a seat on the bar stool next to me. Nihongo wa daijoubu? She asked me. Daijoubu yo. A blast of cool air chilled the sweat on my face and carried her scent. She smelled good, but I noticed the mama-san behind the bar. Why did she name the bar Riddle? The mama-san answers, it sounds exotic and it seems to pose a question about life. She was 8 when the bomb killed her mother and sister. She still carries the scars from the glass that sliced her body. Okay. That's all.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gorgeous night.
Marc, do you have another?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
There's 2 marks. Yes, I have a very short one. It's an old one. It's from my collection here. It's called Red Granite. Beyond the wars, beyond the rising smog, far from the lingering hate, past the urban blight, red light shines on a sheer granite face somewhere in the Sierra.
Thank you. Thank you. Peggy, do you have another?
Oh, I was hoping Marie was going to read another.
Well, she will. She will.
Oh, okay. This is the closing poem from Slow Lightning, and it has a Sanskrit phrase from the Narayana Sutra, which is akara, ukara, makara, iti. And kara is power. And so a, u, is Om. So it's like the power of Om and its individual aspects. It's a really beautiful chant. I wish I could do it well. I'll try. Akara, ukara, makara, iti. You don't have to know anything to begin to do nothing. Silence is its own master, carries its own surplus. No tonnage, storage, or drayage. Just like riding the imagination on a carpet of corrupted intervals, a difference in pitch to a chord. The music of the spheres is mouse quiet to naught, beat held to crescendo realized, passionate soprano to Gregorian chant, or it is louder than a sun flare through space hits earth. When there is nowhere to escape, don't just flail, be still. Advice to self.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. Marc Olmsted, do you have another?
Okay. I'm a little bushwhacked here. Vampiro for president. I want to say there's Vampiro is a Mexican wrestler from Canada who made it big in Mexico, but never in the United States. I saw a documentary on him and I was quite fascinated by it. So I wrote a poem to Vampiro. Sitting in the sweltering shade of the car we're trying to sell, an energy drink substituting for a nap, burning manic in the brain, I will take my Vampiro wrestling t-shirt to the Dharma group now. Vampiro, the Canadian wrestler who made it big in Mexico and has a collectible action figure. Vampiro, the Oathbound. Vampiro, the local protector, Locopala of my palace. Vampiro, the goth bodybuilder, the missing Misfits band member whose daughter is cute and wise beyond her teen mind, whose wife, ex, now looked like a Telemundo star and is now his ex. I am Vampiro, inseparable in the imagination, grotesque, full of groans, Golgothic with thorn crown of a bashed folding chair, blood, charismatic, unstoppable goth Hulk, who is Frankenstein already, lost creature, hurt mutant, escaping the mob of torches. I am Vampiro, king of vampires, commanding good behavior, coexistence, love and let die. I am Vampiro going vegan. Tomato juice is my blood. I glow in the night, greenish from celery and kale. No bats were harmed in the writing of this poem. Vampiro for president. Vampiro the poet. Vampiro who hides his aging wounds. Zero Vampiro, acting from the clouds. Kamikaze killer of none. Harmless Vampiro, tamed. Signing pictures at the WrestleCon. Vampiro fan base keeping you alive as much as the words chanted under electric bulb, as much as these words charted under electric bulb as midnight approaches and I have yet to feed.
Amazing.
Senator, you slay.
Wow.
Oh God, I needed that.
Yes, we did. We did. We all did. Thank you. Thank you, Marc. Thank you. Miss A, do you have another?
Yes.
No, I mostly came to listen tonight, and if I try to read again, my cat will attempt to assassinate me. He's already bitten me once. I keep
Okay.
putting him down. He keeps jumping up. Let's not encourage him.
All right.
Thank you, though.
Thank you. It's great to see your face. Thank you. Marie Lecrivain. Are you ready, Marie?
Yeah. I am going to share with you the only limerick that I've ever written, and it is an alchemical poem. It's called Young. There once was a man named Carl whose dreams began to unsnarl. He discovered the key to subconscious alchemy beneath his emotional marrow.
And just like that. Thank you. Thank
We
you
should
so
hear
much.
that one twice.
Yes.
Yeah, we should
Yes.
hear that one again.
Yes. Yes, please. Do it again, Marie.
All right, hang on. I got to get back to the page. Okay, there once was a man named Carl whose dreams began to unsnarl. He discovered the key to subconscious alchemy beneath his emotional marrow. And that's marl spelled M-A-R-L.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Do we have more music? Do we have anybody feels left out? Steve McCormick?
He's
We ain't heard from Elena.
Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can grab him again.
Okay.
We
Elena, are
haven't
you
heard
gonna
from Elena.
read a poem? Miss Secota
Miss Secota? Oh my God.
or Mrs. Martell?
Did you just call me? Did you just call me?
It's so scary out there, really. So, you know, I don't have my book here, and I haven't mastered reading from my manuscript. So I wish that I could ladle the ocean in the palm of my hand and bring it to you. I will leave it on your doorstep, and while you're awake, it will be there just for you. I once, oh, never mind. Yes. I can do another song while they're playing. While they're
I don't know
reading.
if he's coming back.
Is he coming?
I don't know.
I thought that I was past love. I thought my heart was cold until you came at last, love, turning the world to gold. I wanted to be near you, but never even dared to hope one day I'd hear you tell me that you cared. I'm falling in love again, never wanted to. What am I to do? I can't help it. Love's always been my game, play it how it may. I was made that way. I can't help it. Men cluster to me like moths around a flame, but if their wings burn, I know I'm not to blame. I'm falling in love again, never wanted to. What am I to do? I can't help it. And now Steve McCormick and Heather Donavon. Thank you.
These were falling just like embers, colors red and gold. They set us on fire, burning just like moonbeams in our eyes. Somebody said they saw me swinging the world by the tail, bouncing over a white cloud, killing the blue. Now I'm guilty of something I hope you never do, because there is nothing, and it's sadder than losing yourself in love. Somebody said they saw me swinging the world by the tail, bouncing over a white cloud, killing the blue. So you asked me just to leave you and set out on my own and get what I needed. You want me to find what I've already had. Somebody said they saw me swinging the world by the tail, bouncing over a white cloud, killing the blue. Somebody said they saw me swinging the world by the tail, bouncing over a white cloud, killing the blues, bouncing over a white cloud, killing the blue.
Thank you.
You're muted, Elena.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody, what a night. What a night.
Perfect finish.
If anybody has notices, I know you do, Peggy, you can still put them in chat so I can send the chat to people. Okay.
I put my email in there if anybody wants to come to morning meditation or Sunday reading at 11 a.m. There's an open reading for the first 6 people that sign up.
The meditations are great. I've been going. So it's really, really fun.
Meditation and free write. So 5 minutes guided, somatic imagery, 10 minutes silence, a prompt, and then we share. And we're out of there by about 9:45. It's just kind of a warm up for the day. Yeah.
My morning meditation is putting on the kelp forest cam from Anacapa Island and getting all my 7th graders to breathe in and think blue thoughts before we do math.
Whatever works. Yeah, it really helps those kids, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
really does. Yeah. I have to say I don't miss the classroom right now, but I have such great respect for people that are still in it.
The kids are so neat.
And I
It's
think the way
amazing
to
right
stay is to bring some meditation and bring something to, our kids are really suffering. So
They need mental health. They need the
Yeah.
emotional support as much as they need the academic.
yeah,
Maybe
and
more
teachers
so.
have to do it because there just isn't anybody else, I wish I could still be in the classroom. I just physically can't anymore, but boy, great respect. Yeah. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so
happy
much.
Heather got on.
Peggy,
Yay, we got some duet. Come sing with us someday.
Excellent voices. Excellent voices.
Yes, I'd love. Who's talking? Where?
Peggy.
Peggy, how do you guys make it sound so good? It's a practice. It really is a practice to sound that good on Zoom. Yeah. I'll reach out to you.
Thank you.
Good
Peggy-
to see you guys.
Peggy, I could actually hear the lines on your poems with the way you read. To me, it was amazing. I just love your rhythm and the way you use speech.
Indeed.
Oh, thank you. I'm mourning my vocal coach who just passed away, Kristen Linkletter, who, wrote Freeing the Natural Voice, which became a part of my practice 40 years ago. And I will share with you that I was mortified the other night when I saw a tape of my slow lightning reading, because I was so excited and my voice was, it was just like the wrong way for a vocal coach. But it happens, the excitement.
You're in the moment.
But yeah, Kristen Linkletter, if you can ever get your hands on that book, Freeing the Natural Voice, it's the same thing that meditation is about. It's freeing the habits, the patterns, so that you're really available to the words. So all props to Kristen Linkletter. Yeah, thank you for saying so. Thank you, Marc.
So important. Thank you, everyone. Really.
Elena,
Have
thank you for hosting.
This is
Thank
so
you.
beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Elena.
Well,
Excellent.
it's all you. I do very little. It's all your work, really.
Elena, without you, we wouldn't have this reading.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Getting
love
facts
you,
there.
and come back in February. And like I said, yes, have a fun
It won't
rest
go
of the
away.
Oh,
Time to roll.
Thank
huh?
you, Elena.
thank you.
Elena.
All together.
Thank you, Greg.
everyone.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you, Marc.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night,
All the
everyone.
best. Ciao.
Ciao.
Good night, Greg.
All righty.
Oops. I'm going to stop recording.
Got it.